There you go. Hey everybody, this is Frank Klesitz. Welcome to another edition of Keeping It Real. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm with Viral Marketing. That's my firm. We have Greg Harrelson here, our co-host. And we're going to go really deep today on hiring virtual assistants to help with your real estate team. We all know that lead generation is where it's at to bring the deals in. And sometimes you try to figure out where do you put your money. Do you have staff, you have lead generation, there's limited resources. And it is possible to outsource correctly without sacrificing quality of service, without sacrificing, your reviews online. And we're going to meet Dave Friedman today, who has done this successfully. He has a team in India, in fact, that handles most of his back office operations, basically the non-client communication side, and all the client communications handled in the States. And you're going to learn how he hired them, maybe some of the job descriptions, some of the nuances. So if you're looking to maybe scale yourself up or scale your current team up in some way by using virtual assistants today, you are in the right place. So thanks for showing up. But first, a couple of housekeeping things. If you go to keepingitreal.com, you can go ahead and subscribe to the show. All of our previous shows are on there for many years we've been doing of interviewing top agents around the country of what they're doing to be successful and how they're selling houses and being profitable. You can watch years of amazing content, and you can go back to the very beginning ones because much hasn't changed. I mean, there's technology that changes, but a lot of the principles remain the same. And I really encourage you to go back and watch. You can put your email address in. We'll give you notifications and updates about the show. We're also on iTunes. So if you go search Keeping It Real on iTunes or Apple Podcasts now, actually, I think it's called, we're there. You can also go to the Real Geeks Facebook page where we post the show that you can check out. So with that, I'm excited to introduce Dave Friedman. Dave, say hello, my friend.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Frank and Greg. It's good seeing you guys.
So you've been selling real estate how many years? Let's get a little background real quick for everyone. How long have you been in the game?
Real quick one. Yeah, I got my real estate license when I was 18 by the recommendation of my mom. So after college, so I've had it for 22 years now, but after college worked for a builder and around the Detroit, Michigan area where I'm from, and then moved to South Carolina probably 12 years ago with that same builder, and got into the general brokerage side of real estate coming up on about 8 years.
Got it. How many homes did you sell last year, Dave? For your team?
Right around 400.
That's great. 400 homes. And how many Zillow reviews do you have?
We're closing in on about 1,000 5-star online reviews. I think on Zillow, we have about 450.
So 450 on Zillow and probably others, like Google My Business?
Google, Facebook, and Zillow are the three that combined are about 1,000.
And you run a real estate team, not a brokerage. Again, just give everyone some quick background before we're going to virtual assistants. You've decided not to go the brokerage route. I'd love to get some of your insight with this later on.
Sure.
But you stay just with the team and you do all the lead generation for the agents. That's my son. All lead generations for the agents with a team that follows up to set the appointments for the agents. The agents just go on the appointment set for them. And then the second that listing contract is signed, like as the listing agent walks out the door, the operation team is calling to intake them, correct?
That's right.
So all your agents have to do is just go on the appointments and negotiate contracts. Am I correct?
That's correct. And a lot of them, they do some lead gen and follow up. Of course, you're not going to grab every listing, but you still need to call them and follow up and get them signed. And also they do some lead gen, but it accounts for about 10% of our business overall. So 93% of our business last year was team generated.
And if you pay attention, if you stick around for later in the episode, we're going to go deeper into how Dave set up his team model this way and why. And he's kind of flirted going down the brokerage route and why he isn't. And we're going to investigate that later in the show. But why everyone's here today is for virtual assistants. So here's the question I'd like to start the interview off with to Dave. Tell us the story of when you decided, you know what, I need to look into possibly getting some of my support staff, let's just say what it is, cheaper. What are the options to get it cheaper, get the cost down? Can I provide good service? Take me back to the moment when a light bulb went off in your head that maybe I can get some of my work overseas to help out.
This story is not going to make me sound very smart. It was just like dumb luck. I never looked at LinkedIn, and I was just scrolling through my LinkedIn messages, and some guy hit me up from India and said, "Hey, I can get some work done if you need it." And I wanted to build a database of all the realtors in Charleston, right? And you had to go into manually in the MLS, copy and paste all their information to a spreadsheet. I felt bad having my admin do it, and she was already busy. So this guy in India hit me up on Facebook, and I said, "Hey, I do have a project that." He was just fishing for work. I said, I do have a project. It's probably going to take 70 to 80 hours. What do you charge an hour? He said 15. And I replied back. I said, what about 5? He said, sure. And I
Wow.
just like that, like it all happened within a couple
Master
minutes.
negotiator.
So I shot him a video on like what to do, and he whipped it out. He had his wife do it actually, and so he kept reaching out to me nonstop about like, can we get some more work? And so I slowly started giving him some
Dave, hang on.
work.
How did you know to counter with 5?
I didn't. I was just like, that's 15 seems like a lot. I literally did no research. I just responded and said, what about 5? And he said, sure. It was literally
Okay.
that. Like, it was like
Sound good?
all kind of dumb luck, And anyway, so interestingly enough, this guy, his name's Raul. He had a full-time job at the time. And so I started giving him more work, and then he started to hire people to do the work, So he and I have an agreement. I'm just paying him $5 an hour, And anyway, all of a sudden we had 7 VAs doing a lot of work for us, and I had some other people in the real estate community find out. So they called me and said, "Hey, can you show me what you're doing?" So I said, "Sure." A lot of them tried to do that, and it was just hard for them to find the right people, and it's just all the pains of hiring and training. And so people said, "Can you just take care of it for me, Dave?" So I called Raul up and said, "Hey, I think we can start a business." And so now we have 50 virtual assistants that's doing work for about 30 real estate teams.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, and it was just like this dumb luck where, so now Raul quit his job. He runs a business. He's got, 50 employees that he and I are partners on, and they're in a big, beautiful office building in a tech center in India. And
So they're not working from home. They're in an actual building in India.
yeah, they run a really tight operation. I mean, everything is firewall protected, and everyone's working out of the office on laptops that we provide, and everything is super secure. So
So you buy their computers.
yeah, it's a legit
Do you
office.
pay for the rent?
Yeah.
So you have a building in India.
Yeah. It's 50 people that show up every day.
Okay. Got it. Interesting. I want to pull, if you have the address,
Isn't
let's
that
pull up on
crazy?
Google. Well, if you have the address, put in the chat, let's pull it up on Google Maps. I want to see your building in India that you pay rent
I
on.
don't even know.
What's the rent? What's the rent?
Well, look at here's our team. I just pulled up a picture.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's see if we could break this down.
Yeah.
What was the first project that you hired for rural?
Literally just wanted somebody to build a database for me of all the realtors in Charleston so I could market to them for recruiting purposes. And so it's what I learned is that they're very good at, well, depending on the kind of person you hire, but we have them do a lot of technical work for us on the back end. And with real estate, there's no ideal software that does everything that we want it to do. And they don't all communicate with each other. So we have our virtual assistants parsing information back and forth, making sure everything is consistent and tight. They provide all the reporting for us. They back up our coordination team with listing coordination and closing coordination activities. They basically do everything that is not interacting with the client, except for interaction with the client. So they don't email clients, they don't speak to clients, but they do everything else. So our coordination team can spend all their time just communicating with clients and providing great service. And they do like lead management for us. They do some prospecting to convert leads for us. They do a lot, they do probably if I had to guess, probably 70% of our operations work.
Wow.
That we would normally have people in our office doing.
How did you build the confidence? So I'm assuming you just gave all the work to Raul. And do you only communicate with Raul and then he goes to all of his family members and employees?
Yeah, the way
Or
we
do
have
you
it set
communicate, or
up
do you
for
communicate with other people on the staff, or you just kind of jam it all through Raul?
the way that we set it up for my team is exactly how we have it set up for the other teams that we service, where you have one point man, and you don't hire a dedicated VA to help you through us, but what we have is one point man. This is what I have for my team. It works great. And if I want something done or a process created and driven, I'll shoot a video on it, send it to my point man. They'll document the entire process, send it back, say, is this what you need it to look like when it's done? And here's examples of it when it's finished, and say yes. And they go and train the staff on how to do it and hold them accountable to making sure that there's a high level of accuracy and no mistakes, and it's being done, routinely, or how maybe if it's one-time project, obviously they're just going to do some compliance audits on it. But yeah, that's how we run it. And so our leadership team that are like pretty technical and great at figuring out how to solve problems, and they just train their team on how to run that playbook.
I like that. So you found one, sounds like one very entrepreneurial, very intelligent individual in Rule who you enjoy working with at a high level
Mm-hmm.
to get the idea out of your head onto videos. He writes the checklist. He does it first to get it right. And then he goes off and hires the people to train them below them to scale it, and is responsible for everything. Is that correct?
That's right. And at this point, we have probably like 7 Raúls, and Raúl is not doing that anymore. So there's 7 other people that are doing that.
Like an account manager.
Yeah, and they each have a team of 6 people, and what's great about it is a lot of our clients actually want the same stuff done, right? So we're able to batch. Like we have departments where we can batch like certain activities. So
yeah, it's probably the same thing across many real estate teams.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So the team that's trained in like listing coordination or closing coordination, all the work that comes in for that type of work goes to that department. And so you'll probably have several different people working on your things throughout the week, all accomplishing the same stuff. And so you don't have to worry about people calling out sick, or if you have a bad hire, if we need to replace them, we replace them. And none of our clients or myself would feel that or know about that, because you have a team of people that are doing the work for you.
Well, here's the questions I'd like to go through now. This is interesting, Dave, for the audience. I want to know, if you take a look at the whole business from lead generation to lead conversion to maybe even getting ready for the listing and going on the listing appointment, to the listing process, to the transaction process, to post close, to maybe even hiring and recruiting. I'd like to hear how much of that value chain you've put overseas.
Oh gosh.
I think that'd be very interesting. So can we go through it all?
100% of our marketing.
Well, hang on. Whoa.
Okay.
So let's start with lead generation, and inside lead generation, you have marketing. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have your team in India doing for marketing that's working well for you?
Managing our pay-per-click campaigns, creating all of our Facebook content, all of our video creation and editing, all this. Our entire marketing calendar is managed overseas, which includes our 60-point annual touch, all of our events that we do, and direct mail. They're collecting data that are essentially like leads, that cold leads. They're collecting data on cold leads and parsing the information, emails and phone numbers, so that way we can do a lot of marketing to them and turn them into warm leads.
So when a partial lead comes in from Real Geeks, it goes over to them, who looks up more information to go deeper on the marketing, I'm guessing.
It could be that, or an example like, and here's like a one-off example is like, we are looking at homes that rented 9 months ago. And so once a month, they're looking at all the homes that rented 9 months ago and pulling all the contact information for the owners. So that way we can mail, text, call and say, hey, your lease is coming up in 3 months. Are you thinking about selling?
How did you get your marketing costs down so low to go to India when it's such a creative design, copywriting? That has to probably be one of the hardest positions that you put over there, in my opinion.
It was the last one that we put over there. I
Yeah,
didn't think that would actually be possible, but and it took me two people to find, the right one, and who we currently have is absolutely incredible. She actually used to work for, she worked for the government, doing marketing for the government before we hired her. And she actually like was responsible for designing like some of their stamps that they have for their post office and stuff like that.
that's pretty forward thinking, Dave. I don't know anyone that's put a marketing department overseas. That's really hard. Any insight you can give to the audience of how you pulled that off?
Um, it's no different than trying to find somebody here. It's just you got to interview them, find the right person, get some examples of their work, see what they've done. And if you just apply that same type of hiring, globally, you're gonna find some good people.
And we'll get into that. I want to know what you're doing to hire. What about prospecting? Do you have anyone making phone calls?
Yeah,
Or
yep. We have a team in the
if,
Philippines. We have a team in the Philippines that.
so that's in the Philippines.
Yep, that's in the
Why
Philippines.
why the Philippines as opposed to India?
We have people in India and the Philippines, and I think the language is probably a big reason. The Philippines, they're very. We find a lot of people that don't have many accents. We actually have like expats that are working for us that live in the Philippines that are from the States.
Seriously?
No joke. We have three people. We have one person in Thailand and two people in the Philippines.
So you have Americans living in the Philippines working for you?
Uh-huh.
So they speak perfect English.
And one in Mexico.
Dude.
And, yeah.
Okay.
But for like circle prospecting type activities, we have some in the Philippines and some in India. And I think that we're getting better results out of people in India because of the culture is like the culture is very, I think it works better I think the Philippines people are very passive and not very aggressive. And that's just part of their culture, where in India, that's not the case at all.
There's probably a benefit too, that you actually have a building they're physically all going to that you pay for in India versus maybe working from home in the middle of the night.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. This is very interesting. What do you pay? So your marketing person, what does a marketing person cost? Like if somebody here were to go post a job ad, which we'll get to, you found this marketing person, what's their cost? Is it $5? Is it $3? Is it $2.50?
In general, for like really talented, skilled people that are going to manage for you or do like high level marketing and that kind of thing, it's probably about $8 an hour. We have some, and I think that if you're looking for people to prospect and such, $2.50 to $4 an hour. You can put some bonuses in there for them to potentially make up to like $6 an hour. And then their management team would be somewhere around like 7 or 8.
And you're getting good results of putting people overseas on the phones to make calls. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's your secret behind that, man? Because a lot of people will say, I've tried it. It doesn't work. Doesn't work for me.
Running a call center, it just takes, I think, a very specific management style. And so we have a call center here in the States for our real estate team also. And the whole thing is remote. So no one comes into our office in our call center. And I just think it takes a very specific, like you're managing through data and keeping people to do the same activity all day long and following a script is really it. There's nothing more to it.
Okay, Dave, how many VAs do you have on your team? 7?
That are working directly for our team. There's 7.
Yeah, working for your team, you have 7, right?
Well, yeah, there's 7 I'll say this, there's 7 in India supporting our operations team. There's 3 in the Philippines making phone calls that are like circle prospecting type phone calls. And then we have another 3 that are 1 in Mexico and 4 in Asia, 3 in Asia that are making that are calling our leads, like Zillow and expireds. And
so the inbound, you have expats in Mexico and Asia. that are Americans for
Inbound,
inbound because of more
inbound,
valuable leads,
yeah.
right?
And
And
our,
then
we
the
have like
Philippines, you'll put the outbound
for like, yeah, like outbound, like circle prospecting.
circle
We do have,
prospecting.
yeah, we do have the expats also calling like expireds and FISBOs and that kind
You
of thing.
lucked out with that, man. That's amazing. That's kind of the holy grail of outsourcing is finding American living abroad. Yeah. Okay, I'm just curious. So, $5, $4, $4, $4, let's throw a $3 in there. I mean, all in, what, $40 an hour, $50 an hour, if you add up the cost of everyone?
Oh,
There's
yeah,
just no way you would be able to get all that done at American rates.
no, there's no way.
Does the
No, there's our profitability. Our profitability. Here's what we would look like if we didn't have any of that, right? A lot more work would have to go back to our agents to do, right? Because we couldn't afford to bring all those people, hire all those people to work here in the States because of how expensive it would be. We wouldn't be as profitable as we need to be to make the business worth it, right? So we would have to get a lot of that work back to our agents to do since they're 100% commission anyway, and they'll end up selling less homes because they're doing a lot of operational type work, which is kind of like the typical story for most realtors out there, right? They wear many different hats and are responsible for many different things. We've just taken that stuff away, and we'd also have to sacrifice. I think that by doing that, I also think that we would sacrifice on customer service, which is really important to us.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I'm pulling up your Zillow reviews, man. I mean, you guys are doing great. I mean, the consumer is super happy with your service. And it's because everybody overseas is not communicating with the client. You've levered up your support staff. How many salaried support staff do you have in the States?
Outside of ISAs, or do you want also ISAs?
Not
ISA,
ISAs. Like once the contract is signed, how many people do you have on payroll helping out with that?
we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 people. So you've levered up 4 people on the back end with outside of the ISAs to help out with this. That's incredible.
So now our operations team, they're not doing the project management stuff of like checking the boxes off to make sure that descriptions are in the MLS and such. What they're doing is negotiating repair addendums.
Well, let's go through all that. So here's the deal. So we talked about lead generation. We talked about marketing you've outsourced.
Yep.
You have inbound and outbound you've outsourced.
Mm-hmm.
So outbound's in the Philippines, and inbound you found foreign expats because of more high quality leads.
Yep.
Kudos to you on that, my friend. All right. Then we have, what about preparing for the listing or going on the listing appointment? Is there any support that you have there?
Yep, India does all that. India, so our listing agents will find the comps that they want, and then the team in India will build the presentation and the CMA based on those comps. And they put together like a 30 page, we call it an equity evaluation. It's like it's this huge evaluation of what we think the homeowner's property's worth, so it just helps differentiate us on a listing appointment where somebody walks in with a 1-pager with like 3 comps on it. We have like a 30-page,
a huge one that had a lot of time put into putting it together.
Yeah. And so our team in India does all the market research to build that out and customizes it for the client that we're meeting with.
Dave, you have a unique brain to be able to sit down and write all these training manuals and train this to your people to
no, this is the beautiful thing. I don't I would lose my mind. I shoot a video and I just say, this is what I need done. And I send it to them. And what they do, they just watch the video as many times as they need to. If they missed a part, they'll go back and re-listen, and just take what I say and just figure out how to make it actually happen. And that's the beautiful part about it is they've written all of our playbooks for us.
They've written the playbooks off the videos that you've recorded.
Yep. So it takes literally no time to give them the direction. It just takes them a little bit of time to go figure it out for you.
Let's say it goes under contract, the listing contract signed. What happens?
Listing contract. Once it goes under contract, VAs go and update everything they need to internally for our cash flow and our financing and our trackers, that impact, all the goal tracking that we do within the team, update all the marketing, generate new marketing for, that we just sold something.
What software do they use to manage all this? How do you manage like this with your team?
They
You know what's
are,
going on.
they're using Trello.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They use Trello for this. And, they schedule the home inspection. They contact our insurance vendor and get insurance for the property. They contact the lender to make sure that everything's super tight with the lender. They schedule a closing time with the attorney. They literally go and do all the task admin work.
Dave, if you've successfully pulled this off, why isn't this going to become the norm? Because the economics are very hard to fight on this. That is almost, I believe you're at a competitive, to compete with you, you're at a competitive disadvantage at your labor costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why isn't, if this is true, that you're able to deliver this level of service, you're able to deliver the profitability and the sales that you have, and to run a team this way, somebody who has their labor in the States or these support services, that is at a competitive disadvantage. Why aren't more people doing this? You obviously people are, they hire you to help do more of it and you're available for that. But what are the roadblocks of why someone hasn't investigated getting their labor costs down of some of their support structure overseas like this?
I think there's several things that I've heard where people have, limiting beliefs, right? That's one. Another is, I think just managing people in general can be challenging. And when they're 100% virtual, you never meet them, you don't have these relationships, that kind of thing. So I think people
Well, you flew on. There was a story you told me a while ago. You flew Raul out to meet with him one-on-one, didn't you? Tell everyone that story.
Yeah, he couldn't get into the States. He couldn't get a visa to get into the States. But he did have one from his previous employer for Canada. So we met in Toronto. So he flew to Toronto. I flew to Toronto.
Because you couldn't get to the States and you met with him in the airport.
Yeah. And so we got a hotel and we met for like 3 days and in a conference room that we got at the hotel and just kind of banged out, the future growth for the business. And so we plan on doing that annually. We didn't do this last year because of COVID, but it was the first time I had met him, and he had been working for us for, I think, 6 years.
And then you brought him and you met with him in person for 3 days to plan out, this is working well. Let's see how deep we can go with how much I can send over there. You met with him in person.
Yep.
Do you know anyone that has outsourced somebody that has actually flew them over to meet with them in person?
No,
I don't know if anyone ever met anyone.
No.
That's incredible, Dave. Anyways, I think this is such a an eye opener to where. Let me ask you this question. Greg, I want you to give me some commentary on this. Now that you've gotten those costs lower so you can provide great service, what has kind of mastering this virtual assistant system for you allowed you to do in your business that you couldn't do before? So obviously great service. But I want to hear from your business owner standpoint, what are you able to do now with your capital and resources that you couldn't do before if this had to be in the States?
We just shift that, the savings that we have, we just shifted over to more lead gen, right? And more marketing, right? More leads. That way we can sell more homes.
Greg, what are your thoughts on virtual assistants?
Yeah, I mean, we have about 10 ourselves. I've had virtual assistants for years, and a lot of similarities to what Dave's doing. So, to answer that last question, it allows businesses to scale. And so where most people are going wide, so as they get bigger and bigger, they got to go wide with their org chart. With virtual assistants, you can go deep with your org chart. And so there's a big difference. And wide means that at this level, whatever level of staff this level is, go wide, that becomes very, very expensive. So there's a point where if you keep adding another, let's say mainland staff member for the marketing department, it's one person at a high salary, and then you need to do more business. So you're going to go get another person at a high salary, and then you need to do business and you get another person. So that's going wide. All right. Well, what ends up happening is you feel like, okay, well, I've got to give them some high level activities to justify their high salary. So so you can only go so wide. But if you take one person and then you hire VAs under them, now that's going deep. And so if you're actually going to be able to go deeper and you're at $3 an hour, then you're okay with giving them some smaller tasks that maybe you wouldn't want that higher salary person to do, like a Facebook ad or something like that. You're like, oh gosh, I don't want to have this person making $40,000 doing that. But if it's somebody that's making $400 a month, you'll have them doing that all along. So then you can scale. So the people that are not doing this, they're probably getting a lot of the well-known traditional things done inside their operations. What they're not doing is getting all those really cool things that have a little bit of an impact, and over time, consistently done, have a major impact. But they're not going to go get a high salary person to do that. So there's a difference in going wide versus going deep. He's going deep.
And the way that we have it structured is going deep, because it's, like I said, we only have one point man that our team communicates with. Her name is Vaishnavi, and she has her team that she manages. So she she's not part of our leadership team, but she is a leader of her team, and it makes things much easier for us.
Yeah, we have a lady named Hazel, and she's our lead, and she does the hiring, and she's responsible for the quality of the people that are under her. And if we need another position, we just tell Hazel. Hazel goes and hires. We're not even involved in the hiring process anymore. So it's her responsibility to hire and manage.
I think this needs to be talked about more, is that when someone's trying to build a team and they don't know that this is an option to scale up, you're really at a disadvantage to be able to get things done with limited resources that you have. So I'm glad we're doing this.
And it's easier to get this done while you're building your team than trying to go back into your team and moving a lot of stuff offshore. We've actually had some of the teams that have hired us, the team owner hired us to do this, and there was like resistance from the operations manager or the admin, because they feel
you have to sell it where this isn't replacing your job, it's levering you up. So you on the staff person has to like step up and be better, or else you're going to get replaced by a VA.
Yeah, it's very
the person in the US has to become more intellectually and emotionally involved in their work, or else I don't see the value difference. Or the premium, right, Greg?
That's
right. Absolutely, 100%.
Yep, you're trading their work. You're getting that work off their plate so they can level up and take more work from you, right? You want to get off your plate, and so they have to level up. That's the whole part.
Yeah,
that's probably one of the most impactful parts for me, is that it has a significant impact on me, because I'm able to get a lot of stuff off my plate that I would normally have to do myself. But because I freed up my leadership team so much, they can do a lot of the stuff that I would normally be doing.
I'll share a couple of things. We have several VAs that I work with. I've been to Manila and spent time over there, and really studied the culture, and wanted to really tackle that ability, because I saw it as such a competitive advantage. All of our calls at Viral are recorded. If you speak with us at our company, every call is recorded. And we say, hey, Greg, I'm calling you on a recorded line. How are you today? All right. A team overseas listens to all of them overnight. And they're all individually scored on how they did on the phone. And then the stand-up meetings next day, we have real data that we can go over to get people better on their phone calls, to coach them. That's something we put in place. The other one for similar, like listen to calls and coaching into a scorecard. The other thing was the accounting. Is at some point, you need to know like all of your debits, all of your credits, all your income, all of your expenses, like updated in QuickBooks daily. You know what I mean? A lot of people won't even do it for the entire year when it's tax time. They're even putting QuickBooks the entire year. You know what I mean? But we have a full-time CPA, $6 an hour, that worked for Price Waterhouse, because they actually outsource a lot of their work over there. And we found somebody to help us do all of our accounting work in the Philippines to help us out, which was a huge shift. I mean, I was looking at a $50,000 a year position, 50 probably, that I was able to get for $12 an hour. And that just completely changed my life as far as economically be able to run a profitable business. All right. So as you guys keep having questions here, I see the questions coming up. We're going to get to those here in a little bit. And I also want to get Dave's thoughts on brokerage, which I promised you guys. Dave, where do you go? Obviously you have a firm that you can help people with, but if someone doesn't want to engage you, where does the consumer typically go to find a VA? You were very fortunate that someone contacted you and you built a relationship. What would you recommend? Where would someone go to maybe start the first step of hiring your first virtual assistant? What would you do? And where would you find them?
Yeah, there's job boards. Like if you're looking in the Philippines, I think it's called, was it onlinejobs.ph or something like that?
That's it. Onlinejobs.ph
is a really good resource. And you can find other ones similar to that. You can find a recruiter, which has also been helpful for us. We have found some people that will recruit, we'll pay them like $300 at time of placement when the person starts. And then there's a 90-day guarantee. No, I take that back. We actually pay the $300 on the 90th day to the recruiter. Yeah. So I think both of those are great options, and you can open up some job boards out there just like you would open up some jobs on job boards out there just like you would here.
How did you find the expats, man?
We opened up job boards. That's actually how we found all those.
So you just posted on onlinejobs.ph. And when someone applied, they said, I'm an American citizen.
I don't know if we got it from there. I don't know like what the source was from those. I think that, I think they applied with us directly, and they might have seen a job post somewhere, but I think they applied on our careers page.
And you said, let's get some of the countries, man. So you've had a lot of success in India. Yep. You've had success in the Philippines. You said Mexico, is that right?
Yep, Mexico.
Canada. And you also said Canada, all right? Yep. And then you also had, you said there's some places in Indonesia or India?
Thailand.
Thailand, got it, okay. Can you go through maybe the pros and cons of like just different labor rates in each of those countries, of maybe why you like certain areas to source? I mean, when someone goes and posts a job for a VA, I mean, you are fishing in a market of millions of people that could potentially work for the job, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Can you give some people some ideas and maybe some things to keep in mind, maybe pay rates or countries and pros and cons of maybe different cultures that have worked out for different positions that from your experience you can share? Like you were saying some difference, maybe anecdotally what you find versus Philippines versus in India.
Every market is a little bit different on like what that pay range is. India and Philippines are probably going to be pretty similar, the sense of like admin work, like $2 to $3 an hour, maybe, and, you get some people that, prospecting for you, maybe $4 an hour to $6 an hour. Some management is probably going to be around $7 to $8 an hour, or somebody that is like very skilled at the craft that you're hiring them for. How much are you paying the CPA? $6 an hour?
$6.
Yeah. So $6 to $8 is like somebody that's going to be very skilled. And that's for India and the Philippines. Mexico is going to be slightly higher, and Canada is going to be slightly higher. Thailand is fairly similar to.
We've had good results with cold callers in Jamaica.
And yeah, Jamaica is a great place. Yeah. But if you just think about, you can probably Google it, but just find out, you can Google like wages in other countries, and just because everyone says the Philippines is a great place doesn't mean that all these other countries aren't great places. And if you think about the actual like job that you want them to do, like people, I think in India, people are like very literal and very structured, and they like really far like their culture is this like hierarchy of classes that, and so I think it creates like a very good environment for us to hire people doing analytical stuff or just, task type work, because they're getting it done like to a T exactly how you ask them to.
Yeah. I think for anyone watching this, if you're looking to get started, I think I'm going to throw out there, hire a recruiter.
Yeah.
That you basically say, here's the job I'm looking for. Here's what I want. They probably have dealt with it many times before, right? Would you just go to onlinejobs.ph and hire a recruiter and then they go and do the interviewing and finding somebody and present you with the best candidates? How would you find the recruiter to maybe go find someone that you need?
I think the way that we have found recruiters is like from, I just maybe asked like our network of people that we know, like, do you know a recruiter in this area? And they've all come by way of referral, but you could maybe go on. Do you think Upwork would be a good spot? You could probably find
That's
maybe,
where I would go.
yeah.
When I needed positions that I was like, I just don't want to deal with this. And, I had like 100 applicants.
Yeah.
Right. I would hire a recruiter. I would pay them hourly, like $5 an hour plus a bonus when I found somebody in 90 days. Right. I'd say, go through, do the interviews, listen to the English, do the background checks, make sure that they have the job skills, and kind of filter these people down. Here's what I'm willing to pay. Here's the hours that I want. Like, here's all my criteria. And they would pass the best ones to me. And I guess have to ask you again, Dave, it's the fact that you literally lease a building in India is very profound to me. Why not everyone work from home? Why not everyone work from home? The fact that you actually got a building over there, it's very probably normal to you, but it's just
the leadership
shocking that you pay rent on a building that you lease in India for your people.
The leadership team. So our real estate team here in the States is everyone works remote. Even the people that live in our market work remote. We have an office space that we just don't really use. And so we're going to downsize.
So everybody in stateside in Charleston, everyone's working from home.
Yeah,
for the most part.
And you're
downsizing your office footprint.
Yeah, because we're paying for it and we don't need it. But the reason in India we have an office is because that leadership team out there just felt like that's the direction that it needed to go, to have people accountable and doing the work that
it's crazy how the office, you're getting rid of the office space in the States.
Yeah.
And you're putting the office space overseas is the shift.
Right.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Frank, that the operations that he's having an office for has nothing to do with his team. That's a whole separate business.
Yeah, it's a separate business.
Yeah, that's a separate
originally,
business.
But originally, I think it was.
So for the listeners out there, let's make sure that we understand as real estate agents are thinking about doing VAs, that's the whole getting an office and having your VAs there.
No,
that's not the conversation. This is a different converation here. So let's not get too lost in that, I
think I'm just lost in the fact that you have a building in India.
Let's please clarify, you
do not need to lease a building for your people. They start working from home.
Everybody else that we have that's virtual for us, they're working remote from home.
Yeah, and that's what I heard. Like, if we stay on the real estate conversation, they're actually virtual. That's why I want to make the distinction that other conversation is really, and I totally get it, right? Like, you got Raul there, and then you got your leadership, you got your pods, and so quality control when you're managing when you're managing VAs for your own real estate transaction is a little different than when you're building a VA company and you're managing VAs for other real estate agents that are hiring you. It's a totally different thing. So the leadership and the hierarchy and the quality control is extremely important, I think, for that. And your position in yourself, obviously, to scale, because you're going to be able to scale that operations better and without jeopardizing quality, which is going to help you retain your real estate agent clients at a higher level.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the big takeaway here is that you really need to consider using virtual assistant labor in your business at some level as you scale up. It's a very common theme that you see among many top producers, not normally discussed. I want to bring Dave on here to share, that's even an option. And if you just walk away from today's training, it's even an option, and even what the pay rates are. And if you could become a good trainer and a good teacher and a good manager, this is actually possible, which leads me to one of the questions I want to answer. Dave, this is the number one question you get. How difficult is it to train a VA who is overseas versus on location admin? By Lori Carlson. Tell us the difference.
I don't think it's any more challenging at all. If it is really challenging, you've probably hired the wrong person. I want
to interject on it too. Would you agree with this? It's actually probably easier because our explanation to the VA is way more put together and detailed than the explanation when we have the person, okay, sit down right here. Let me show you this versus, and then all that chitter chatter dialogue that goes on in between versus somebody in Dave's office has to do the task and they have to do it on the computer and hit the record button. And they have to say, go to the top left, click here, type this in, go to the bottom right, click this, then add this, then do this, then merge this, then do that. And then it's all videoed. So like the instructions in that video will be a higher quality than instructions that'll be verbally. And then when you go in and hire another one and another one and another one, if it's done in person like that, then there's a slight variation every single time you repeat it to the next staff. But that video, you probably have a video library like I do of tutorials of all the tasks, right? So that video is like evergreen. So that video is going to consistently explain the task the same way every single time.
I agree with that. I do find myself when I'm with somebody, it's kind of more like follow me around and watch what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I have a VA, I'm really sitting down and I'm really being much more deliberate. And I find myself being slowing down and like really getting extremely nuanced of exactly what I want. It's true. Yep.
Yeah.
Great question. So let's see here. Robert said something that I thought was kind of just interesting. I have to share this. You know, he says, I'm amazed that you trust someone overseas to set up closings and that level of admin. Dave, tell me the process of maybe just the trust of how you started relying more and more and more of someone in a foreign country to run such important parts of your business. Can you share maybe more emotionally?
Yeah, I
how
think
how you handled that with the
our
audience?
operations manager, Ellie, who's built our entire operations team, is really close with that team in India. And, you know, as things developed, I just would ask her, like, is that something we could send to India, you know? And she was always very, very confident in her ability to like get this stuff overseas. And which made it easy for me because I wasn't really like I trust her. You know, if she said no, I would trust her. If she says yes, I trust her, right? So it was really easy for me to not think too much about it because, you know, it would just be a conversation between the two of us and she would go figure it out. I think if I was really involved in getting that stuff over there and training people and stuff like that, I would probably be a little bit more fearful because I would be seeing some of the mistakes and things going on. And I just don't know about any of that. You know, all I know is it works and it's built confidence and I trust Ellie's decision to
Just time.
Yeah. So
how much would you
go ahead?
Go ahead. I'll get your comment.
No, I think that's what's helped me emotionally be okay with this happening without
No kidding,
out
right?
that everything's gonna like crumble, you know?
Yeah, I know. It's a different feeling when you don't see it like that.
Yeah.
That there. For someone that wants to hire their first real estate assistant in the Philippines, their very first hire, what would you recommend they pay for their first, like, you know, you're an agent, you don't have any staff, you're gonna hire your first person you've ever hired before to help you out. What would you suggest?
I'd find somebody great. I wouldn't try to go spend a couple dollars an hour, you know, because it's negligible.
I'd say 6 to 8 is what I throw out.
Yeah, I'd go like get 6 to 8. You're gonna get somebody great that's going to help you. You know, they're going to be very loyal. I think they're going to be able to help you find more people and build some systems and really take work off your plate. I'd go find somebody that has, you know, I'd try to go find the most talented person I could. And that's somebody like, that's just how I think. If I have to work directly with somebody, like I want them to be really talented. I don't have the time or patience to go hire somebody that needs like years of grooming into something.
I agree with you on that. Okay, so video library. I mean, of course, this is a good question. What do you use to kind of create your training videos? Just give everyone, you can use Zoom. We're actually broadcasting this through Zoom and just record it is one of the easiest things that we use, Dave.
We use Loom. Loom. I love Loom. Yeah.
Yeah. So Loom is a free video marketing software. LOOM.com. Really powerful. It's a Gmail add-in. that you just click it and it sends a video email. And actually Real Geeks, I believe, just came out with a video email option 2 that's built in the system as point native. So
And
you know,
text.
that's for you there. But for maybe recording training videos, Zoom or Loom, one of the 2 words there, just one different letter.
Or YouTube. You can do it on YouTube, and you just create a YouTube channel, and you do it for you could name it whatever you want to, but you could just create a YouTube channel, put them all there, and have them unpublished. And but your team has access to it, so no one's seeing it in the public, but your VA team has access to it.
That's great. That's probably, if we could go back and do it over again, we would probably do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a private YouTube channel. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Easy to scale. They're all in one
Yeah.
spot. Easy to watch however they want.
Nice to
Yeah.
put it into different channels, playlist.
Yeah.
Good
And
tip. I
YouTube,
like that.
YouTube is so big that, you know, you have the confidence it's all going to always be there, right? Nothing's going away with YouTube.
No. We are our own point person versus having an Ellie. Can we handle this workload with a VA by ourselves? Interesting question. Why don't you answer that for us, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you could make that first VA hire your Ellie, you know, and your Ellie doesn't have to be, you know, here in the States necessarily. So yeah, absolutely.
I think what I want to share, what I
When I-
can jump in.
When I first started working with VAs, I didn't have Ellie. You know, I just had Raul, and he, you know, he is our business operations manager for India and or for everything related to that. But yeah, you can most certainly do that. And I was doing that when we got everything out of our business overseas. That was Ellie just running the operations department, figuring out how to make that happen. And you could easily do that.
I'll leave the audience with a tip that has been very helpful for me is when I have to train anyone, I don't care if they're in the States, VA, anyone, any human being, on some task, some deliverable I want done. It's all in my head. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to set an appointment with myself to go create a training video. Ain't going to happen. I'm not going to sit down and create a checklist. Ain't going to happen. So what I do, which has worked very well for me, maybe you guys can use this too, is I schedule an hour a day with the person for a daily 1-hour meeting. So I'm like, okay, I have to train how to do outbound cold calls, or I got to train how to do the accounting, or I have to train how to do these things. I take the new hire and I say, you're meeting with me every day for an hour, 10 to 11, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sound good? And we get together and I start vomiting on a recorded meeting. Lesson 1. Next day, what did you get done? What challenges are you having? Meet with them and get it right. Record it. Lesson 2. Right. And then the third day, that Wednesday, let's say I meet with them, get it all out of there, work with them, screen share, figure it out. Lesson 3. And then I save all those lessons. And the poor next hire I hire has to watch all those Zoom meetings. They're kind of a debacle, but if you actually watch them all, they actually get to know me really well through them because you get my real personality coming out. And all the information is there on how to do the position. So I just schedule daily meetings, record the Zoom meetings, and it kind of holds me accountable to set the appointment and create the trainings. And that's how I've been able to train VAs or really anyone pretty well. It's been easy for me, maybe hard for the person watching it, but it gets the job done.
You know, one other thing I want to add to it is, like, we're talking about recording the task and then using that video to explain to them and teach them how to do the task. Well, that's part 1. Part 2 is then have them do the task and record the video and send the video back to us.
Yep. And what we do is, you know, when I think about something that I need done, I don't sit there and figure out how to get it done and then shoot them the perfect video. I literally go and just hit record. I'm like, all right, guys, this is the outcome that I'm looking to create. I'm just going to kind of talk out loud and figure out how to do it myself. And I'll, you know, I'm not too concerned about making like a perfect short video for them. And so some of these videos can be rather long, and because I don't want to figure it out, then shoot a video on showing them how to do it. I'm just going to do it all at one time and save myself some time and maybe waste a little bit of their time, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so what Greg is saying, and Frank are saying are two different things, and our strategy is even a little bit different. It's a third strategy you can try, but
It's just
yeah.
sitting down on a video and getting it all out in some way to somebody, isn't it?
Yeah, and what I do is what I require them to do is to write a process manual on it,
Yes.
and they literally
Yeah.
create a step-by-step all the way through from front to end with screenshots and examples, and they write an entire process out on it. So that way in the future, like Frank is having people watching older videos to train them. Greg's doing something a little bit different for us. When we bring somebody on, they have like a written process on how to do it. And so it's documented on paper. And there's also the video, which they actually don't use for future trainings. They just use that process document. So as updates need to happen, we're not shooting new videos on how to do stuff. We just go and update that one line in the process document.
Nice. Yeah, because it's hard when you record a video and you have to change something. Now you just update the written. This is one of the reasons why all the training for like AdWords on Google and all the training for Facebook is all written. It's not video because it changes so much. They want to be able to easily change the written documents versus having to make the videos. That's a interesting insight of why you want written processes, because they're very easy to update versus having to go reshoot all videos again.
Yeah.
I just want to share that with the audience. That's a very important insight and knowledge bomb that Dave just dropped. All right. But I want to bring up a comment here from Robert Whitfield. This has been excellent and opened my mind up to offloading things I never would have. If you walk away from that today, everyone, successful video.
What personal things could we offload? We're talking a lot of business stuff, but you can have somebody booking your flights, your hotels, doing, the personal stuff in your life for you for very inexpensive.
Yeah. I hired a VA to help me find a nanny. That was helpful. I didn't think about that too. That's a great question. I'm going to start thinking about that. It sounds wonderful.
Our VA found somebody that comes by and cleans up our dog crap in our backyard. Like we don't, so
undone vendors. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I'll just share this I've used a VA for is waiting on hold. Like with the bill company, the telephone company, like there's things you have to set up, especially if you're doing like real estate investing, is you're on hold with all these government entities and tracking down like title stuff. We've had a VA for that, but that's enough about that. I do want to ask you this question because I promised we'd get to this by the end of the interview. So Dave, you built an incredible real estate team. All right. Again, if I'm correct, so the audience understands, you do all the lead generation for your agents. 94% of it, right? ISAs follow up to set the appointment for the agent for the most part. Agent just shows up. Got it? It's all prepared for them. Just go on the appointment, get contract signed. And then they're done, except being involved in negotiations, because there's a whole back office supporting them. And that's it. It's probably the epitome of a real estate team, right? Where it's not blended. It's in the very far end of the team spectrum of how much work you're taking off the agent's plate versus as you move away from that to maybe a pure brokerage model where it's like, go have fun.
Yeah.
Right. How come when many of your peers, once they've reached the level where you're at with a team, decide to go brokerage too, you have not done that? Share with the audience why.
I think
what your thoughts are behind it.
I think this is a really good conversation. Personally, why I decided to continue going down the team route, is I like having like a very centralized business model that runs the way that I want it to run with, very predictable outcomes. And I can do that with salaried staff much easier than I can with independent contractors. Right. So I just kept like peeling stuff away from what our agents were doing. So that way I would have better outcomes in customer service, better outcomes in conversions, more profitability. And so that's a big part of the reason is I'm, obviously concerned with profitability and consumer experience. I mean, those are the two things that were like, very important to us. So by building a very centralized business model, it's way more predictable and I can control more of it more easily, So, I think a lot of people get to the size that we're at and then shift over to just recruiting a lot of agents and then start to turn into more of a brokerage, right? I think that's what a lot of teams do when they get to our size. Would you guys agree with that? They kind of start as a team and then kind of move over more towards brokerage model?
I would say so. I mean, it can go many different directions, but it's kind of usually the natural path that someone goes down. And you just decided, no way, I'm not doing it. I just want to hear maybe some of your reasons why.
Part of, I think part of the reason some people don't do it is, you got to get a good leadership team to help you, because you have these different departments that you need people to run for you. And as a business owner, you're moving from realtor to running a team to like a business owner, right? And so you really have to find good people, and it's expensive. And so I think a lot of people go down the brokerage route because you just recruit, right? And you have like group training and some like foundation to help, your agents out. And I think for some people that's just more attractive. And you could, potentially you could add more deals by adding more agents. Like that's the game that they're playing, right? Where with us, we add more deals when we get more leads. We don't really. So
That's insightful.
Our business strategy is like
More leads, not more agents.
Right. Like we have a lead like conversion machine, like very powerful like lead conversion machine. And so like my main focus moving forward is just how do we get more leads in there, right? And so I don't have venture capitalist money, to go just like splash marketing everywhere. I could reduce our profit margin by doing that, but like my biggest focus is finding other companies out there that generate an absurd amount of leads that I can get into and help them convert, so our team benefits from it and they benefit from it in certain ways. It could be like lenders, it could be lead generation companies, it could be, insurance companies and things like that. But my focus is like creating relationships with other companies that have a lot of lead flow that I can get my hands into so we can convert it. Builders is another one.
So you're at the point now, and we'll move on to this conversation, but you're at the point now where you're going out and you're going to find banks and other companies that have leads, pay the referral fee, and bring them in because you specialize in the conversion as your game. I want to go to a question here from Robert. Is there a sample YouTube channel that we could watch? It could be super valuable if we could see some of those training videos. A sample process manual would be great too. So I think the audience just has never really seen an operations plan.
Yeah.
Got something? Where can they go? Where can someone see like training videos and like a training step-by-step guide?
I could put some of that stuff together and maybe you guys can post it on your site.
I think that would be cool. If you can, so if you're watching, if you made it this far in the YouTube video, hopefully afterwards, I'll have something pinned to the top of the comments that you can maybe see like an example process of what it would look like that maybe one of your VAs wrote for themselves to scale throughout your organization. I'll share a company that, I've used in the past. We're not paid for anything, but it's called Process Street. I've used this to like sit down and like write all of my workflows. And it's forced me and give me like a process template with checklists to check processes of how people are using it. You don't necessarily need to spend the money on something like this, but it kind of helps you like give you some type of formula to like force you to put some type of training together if you needed it. All right. So let's see if there's any other questions. Is there anything you'd like to ask Dave, Greg, before we move into like a little overtime with me and you?
No, I think he's, I know Dave very well, and I appreciate his openness to share this stuff. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
I don't think I have any. I don't think I have any questions. I think he did a good job at really explaining, what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, everybody should be doing this. Like Frank, you mentioned, why isn't everybody doing this? To me, it's a no-brainer. Everybody should be getting into it.
It is a no-brainer, and I think the world is moving in a direction we're going to have more and more of this. Whether you like it or not, that's the direction of capitalism, unless the rules are changed on it. Mm-hmm. All right.
Eventually, they'll tax it.
Yeah, the rules will be changed probably, but for now, the capitalism is pushing the world in the direction of everything that Dave shared here. And I recommend hopefully go back and watch this and learn something and say, Dave, I want to say thank you so much. Really quick, it's okay. What's the address of the company where you provide these services? Go ahead and give it for the audience.
Expertrealtorservices.com.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on here and giving so much good information, Dave. You can peace out. I'm going to hang in here with Greg and do some
Thanks, guys.
overtime with him.
Thanks, bud.
See ya.
We'll
See ya.
talk soon.
Good seeing you.
All right, Greg, what'd you learn?
I mean, he's doing a lot of, the process is very simple, and fortunately, we've been doing something very similar to him for a while. So, I don't know, to go back and say, why don't more people do this? Number one, not everybody needs to do this. Okay. But when you say that's the way capitalism is going, I think another thing that people need to understand is we're all talking about margin compression in the industry. The margins, that we have to work on is starting to shrink. Whether you want to say it's commission compression, I call it margin compression. Margin compression is different than commission compression. That is where the consumer may pay the same amount of commission, but what the individual agent gets is shrinking. So the commissions aren't shrinking, but what the agent ultimately gets. Now, how can those two things coexist? It's because there's somebody else that's coming in and getting a referral fee. Maybe you're getting your lead from a referral source, so they're coming in and taking a portion of your margin out, but that savings is not getting pushed to the consumer. So as we move forward with margin compression in the industry, we're going to have to figure out how to do the same task or more task at a lower cost in order to continue or to maintain certain levels of margins and profitability. We're going to have to actually be doing that. I said a year ago, and I'm going to continue to stand behind it. There will be a point in time where the majority of the transactions done will come at some sort of fee to a lead company. There's just going to be at some point, it's a higher percent every month. And that means margin compression. And this is one way to maintain profitability in a margin compression industry. And this just isn't happening in the real estate industry. I have friends that own insurance companies that have the same type of system set up. There's companies that are in the mortgage industry. Now, all of us are dealing with margin compression. And so this is one way that combats it and helps profitability.
One of the things that, Greg, thank you, I do because I'm weird, is I'll just be laying around at night and I'll just go online and I'll take a look at the employer postings in the Philippines. So I'll sign up as like an employee in the Philippines. And I'll look at the hundreds, I don't know if it's millions, it's definitely hundreds of thousands of jobs and the companies and what they're putting out there. And I can see what they're offering for pay. I see the big 5 accounting firms. I see engineering firms, law firms, recruiting firms, professional services at the highest levels of publicly traded consulting firms. And it's interesting to me of looking at, man, these aren't just low level jobs. It's more and more higher account management type of jobs overseas. And I like to see the ads that people are putting out so I can kind of see where maybe some of the trends in outsourcing and hiring assistants going overseas is. And a lot of times I'll kind of see what they're paying or what they're offering. And I kind of see the job description. That's kind of how I kind of tailor what I'm going to go post on there based upon me kind of being on the receiving end of an employee foreign looking for work. So if you kind of want to see what's going on in they call it the BPO world, that's the lingo. It's called business process outsourcing. So if you go to the Philippines, everyone works in the BPO industry. The whole country basically, or at least Manila, lights up at night. That's when everyone's working. Business process outsourcing, BPO industry. And it's taken off, especially after COVID. So go check that out. So I hope we learned some good stuff. Is there anything else you want to add here, Greg, for the audience about maybe exploring the idea of hiring virtual assistants that aren't physically present in your office?
Yeah, the only thing is let's put this in perspective. Okay, if you're don't overcomplicate this. You may not have enough work for somebody to hire a VA for 40 hours. In your mind, you're saying, well, I don't really have that much work to do. Okay, but if you're paying $3 an hour at 40 hours, that's only $120 a week. So you don't have to wait until you have 40 hours worth of work to be able to afford a VA for 40 hours. You can hire one VA get them for 40 hours. That's roughly $120 a week. Give them as many tasks as you know that you have. And then from there, add task over time. It'd still be financially efficient. And add task over time. You can grow into it. It's coming at such a low cost that if you don't have a full 40 hours in the beginning, it's okay. Just pay for the 40 hours and you'll grow into it. So like if you take, just to give you another example, when a listing is taken in my office, the listing gets submitted to .loop. When there's a loop started, a virtual assistant gets a notification. The virtual assistant then takes the description of the property description, that was written and entered into .loop, takes that and goes to the Real Geeks website, takes the picture of the front of the house and blogs it on the Real Geeks blog. Then links it to the community page that's also on the Myrtle Beach on that real estate website. So what did I just do here? I just actually created content on my website and interlinked it to a neighborhood page, which anybody that knows anything about SEO knows that's probably a good thing to do. Then they take those pictures and they put it up on Pinterest and link every one of those pictures to my website, to the community page. Good thing to do. Then they go and then they actually do a Facebook post. Then they put it in the MLS. There's a few other things that they do, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. There's some other things that they do, all in the first day. Now it's in the MLS. All this other stuff's done. Now it's in the MLS, probably the next day. Then around 48 hours later, the VA Googles the address and sees that that property's been syndicated to the world. It's on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. And then they take those search results that they find in Google, and they have a template that they created called Online Marketing Report. And the Online Marketing Report has a picture of the house, and then right under the house, there's like a header that says Online Marketing Report. Here's what we've done for you. And then it has national portals. And then they copy and paste the links of the Zillows, Trulias, all the national portals. And then it says our websites. And then it takes links of their property and on all of our personal companies' websites. And then it has competitors' websites. So we pull the links off the Google results of some of our competitors and put it on there, which means we even put it on our competitors' websites. And then it has social media, and then it pulls links of everywhere it's been pushed on social media. That report is then sent to the agent and says, hey, here, we've got we've done this marketing for you, value add to my agent, but we put it where it looks like it's an online report with the agent's information in the footer. And then the agent sends that to the seller and says, here's what I did for you. If you notice, the agent didn't really do it. But we actually, this whole process, if somebody puts a listing in .loop today, that whole process is managed by a VA. And look at all those things that we just did. So it's impressing upon the seller that the agent's really doing something. It's showing the agent that we're actually doing something for them. And that's all done. There's one VA that handles all of that whole process.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was cool, dude. That is a cool process.
Yeah, I love that.
Kudos to you on that.
Yeah.
That's a great process. How long ago did you put that in place? How many
Probably
years? Probably
2.5 years ago, maybe.
That was when did you have the aha? When did I need to go do this?
I know it probably was stimulated by, damn it, these agents need to do this. Meaning they need to do these things.
Yes.
And so what I've realized is like, okay, from a leader and a coach to the real estate agents within my operations, the likelihood that I'm going to get them to execute on that task is going to be so unlikely.
Very low. Yeah.
Okay. Because
and
it doesn't
even
seem
ensured
to be
a
that
consistent consumer experience with that too.
That's right. So then I started looking at it and I'm like, okay, now how I'm going to have to do it for them. So then I said, okay, we've got to do this because I believe it needs to be done. But there's so many different things, right? What people need to understand in that flow is doing this built SEO value for my website. Doing this provided value to an agent. Doing this provided value to the consumer, which makes the agent look good, which makes the company look good. So if you think about all the different points that I'm getting a return on that investment. And when I figured this out, and I remember I created a flow chart on my iPad, and I flow chart all this out. And then I said, okay, pull this off. That was my training, put it on a flow chart. And then my staff then turned around, did the tasks, made video tutorials. And then that was a complete course on how to do this. But basically, it really started with agents need to do this for their clients, but agents aren't going to do this for their clients. And so I need to do it as a company. But then for me to justify adding that into the company, I had to figure out how was I going to track some sort of return? How is this going to give me more return than the investment that I'm going to have to make? That's why it wasn't just producing that template, that online marketing report. That's why I had to get all those other little pieces of the puzzle, the SEO value out of it, in order for me to say, I got to do this.
Greg, that's awesome. That's great. Good for you, man. Well, if there's any other questions, could you add a link to the letter that your VA send out to the seller? Can you add a link to the letter that your VA sent? I'm not sure.
The VA does not ever communicate with my seller. It's the agent that communicates with the seller. So remember, I'm just sending information to my agent. I'm providing the resource for my agent, and I'm doing it in a way where the agent can go and send a report to their.
I think that's a very important. That's the same with me. That's the same with Greg. It's the same with Dave. It's a common principle. The VAs, at least on the operation side, are never speaking to the client.
Never.
The client doesn't know they even exist.
Doesn't know they exist.
It's all going to the agent or the account manager or the staff member who then sends it to the client.
That's right.
So Greg has levered up, honestly, his listing person, as probably you put this VA under the person in charge of the intake of listings.
Yeah, we have a listing coordinator in our office, and the listing coordinator is the leadership. And remember, I say go deep. So this is an example. If you heard the beginning part of this, this is the example of going deeper. So like a virtual assistant allowed me to go deeper into the process of providing good listing services, where if I didn't have a VA, now I'm not sure if I had to hire somebody at a much higher salary, I'm not sure if I could justify having this task in our operations. I might not be able to justify a return, but at $3 an hour, I can justify a return.
Yeah. Well, that's enough for today. I think I'm pretty happy with everything we have here. I want to say thank you everyone for coming. You can watch the replay right here on YouTube. So once this is done, it's right here on YouTube to be able to watch. You can also check it out on a podcast shortly, Real Geeks Facebook page. You can watch it. And of course, keepingitreal.com. We're keeping it real, Greg.
Absolutely, man.
Hopefully we're just truly trying to lay down some good, helpful stuff for you guys. Any other ulterior motives other than this whole thing is financed by Real Geeks. So thank you, Real Geeks. And if you're looking for a great CRM, go check them out, realgeeks.com.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for your time.